Nonstop worry about money is exhausting. We know it's not healthy, but for some reason, our thoughts constantly drift toward our finances. That's no fun, and if it becomes a pattern in our thinking, it'll corrupt our lives. Jesus, though, offers a better way. So if worrying about money is a habit that you want to drop, take a look with me at Jesus' path toward peace of mind. I want to offer you 4 points from his famous teaching called the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew chapter 6, verses 25 through 34, Jesus offers insight on worry in general, but the specific problem he has in mind is a daily cycle of being anxious about our money and our stuff. Sometimes you really don't have enough money for your needs, and it's a real crisis. This passage can help in that case, but the Bible addresses that problem more specifically in other parts. The problem here, though, is like the constant drip of a waterspout, minute after minute, hour after hour. It's relentless. If we keep at it long enough, it becomes uncontrollable. And plus, it's like running on a hamster wheel. You're getting tired while you're getting nowhere. And yet, here's why we like to get on the hamster wheel. Worrying about our money, whether it's about how much we lack or what we need to do to make more, worrying about our money makes us feel productive. Swirling it over in our minds gives us this illusion of control, like we're solving the problem. And that's why it becomes a habit. It feels rewarding without actually benefiting you. Herman Bombeck put it like this: worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it never gets you anywhere. That's why Jesus is so direct in this first point. It's from Matthew chapter 6, verse 25, where he said this: "Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear." So the first point is this: don't obsess. He's not saying that food and clothing don't matter. He's saying that if they rule your mind, they will rob you of life. And you probably caught that he opened with the word therefore. Just prior to verse 25, Jesus cautioned us not to amass for ourselves treasures on earth, and instead to amass for ourselves treasures in heaven. That's verses 19 and 20. Because we cannot serve both God and money. Verse 24. And so point 1, do not worry about your life. And he's talking about the basics here: food, drink, clothes. It's so easy to let our minds be preoccupied with the basics. Having enough, getting more, getting better. Personally, I didn't struggle too much with worry about these things until the last 5 years or so. I always had more than enough and never had this nagging discontent to accumulate more. But about 4.5 years ago, my wife quit her job so that she could focus full-time on our boys, who are now 4 and 5. And God has given us way more than we deserve. We've never gone without, and yet I have probably done more worrying about money over the past 5 years to make up for the prior 30. To have a wife and children depend solely on you can create a lot of pressure. But I still preach this truth to myself, even though I'm not worried about myself, but them. And here's why. In the last part of verse 25, Jesus said, "Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes?" These are basic necessities. Life is miserable without them. But life isn't only about them. If I had a choice between an old, ugly dinner table that was full of conversation and laughs, or an ornate, expensive table that was empty and silent, I would choose the old one that's full of connection every time. And that's the point Jesus is making here. Life is about more than just these basics. My family needs more from me than just those basics. We need more from God than just food, drink, and clothing. And by consuming ourselves with those things, we settle for less with life, and we don't expect enough from God. Life offers us more. God, He offers us more. Obsessing over those things robs us from being present, from enjoying the moments God gives us. So point 1 from Jesus: do not obsess. Point 2 is from Matthew chapter 6, verse 26 and 28, where Jesus said, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. And why do you worry about your clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They don't labor or spin. In these two verses, Jesus said, look and see. That's point 2. Look around. Look outside yourself. Look beyond yourself. Birds are not nearly as intelligent as humans. Flowers don't even have brains. And yet somehow birds find food and flowers are beautiful. It's not random. It may be natural processes, but that doesn't mean there's no one sustaining it. It's all from God's hand. He's active in this world, taking care of what He made and making it pretty. On this point, John Calvin wrote, "There is not one blade of grass. There is no color in this world that is not intended to make us rejoice." And elsewhere he taught, "The whole world is a theater for the display of God's goodness, wisdom, justice, and power." The point Jesus is making and what Calvin is trying to get at is this: stop looking at yourself and stop listening to yourself so that you can start looking at God's work in the world and listening to God's work in the world. So point 1, don't obsess. Point 2, instead, see and look. So what's point 3? Trust. In Matthew chapter 6, verses 26 and 32, Jesus said, "Are you not much more valuable than birds?" And He said, "Your heavenly Father knows that you need food, drink, and clothing." When we are obsessing over our finances and our stuff, it makes us feel like we're the only ones taking care of it all, ensuring that we have it. And Jesus here is saying, God's got us. Our Father in heaven is ultimately in control. We aren't responsible to make our hearts work, our eyes work, our lungs work. God's gracious care is supporting us. And it's like that with all aspects of our lives. Yes, we're working and planning and accomplishing, just like we're seeing and breathing. And it feels like it's all up to us, like we're the only ones making it happen. When we look at the bird, it looks like it's all up to the bird. But God is behind it all. Jesus' point is that just as God is taking care of the bird, He is taking care of us. Faith is looking at God's past and present care and trusting Him to give us future care. That's why faith gives us peace. Faith doesn't make us still. Faith doesn't empty our minds. Worry makes us think that God is going to get it wrong, or that God doesn't care, or that God is irrelevant. But faith helps us act and think according to the truth, that God is real and present, that God cares and helps. Point 3, trust God. Leave it with God. But Jesus doesn't stop there. We need those basics. He knows we need those basics. But there's something even more basic that we need that He leaves us with. So here's point 4. In Matthew chapter 6, verses 33 through 34, Jesus said, "But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." More than food and drink and clothing, we need God. We need His presence and we need His rule. We need God's ways. We need God's priorities. He made us to need all those basics, but more than that, He made us to be with Him and to be like Him. Point 4, seek God's kingdom and God's righteousness. Jesus means to live in the presence of God and reflect His character, His values. He's calling us to do life with Him and to do life like Him. Jesus said life is more than these basics. He said we can't even add a single hour to our lives by worrying about it all. But more importantly, life is about God and God's mission, and us joining Him in a relationship and on that mission. That's point 4. Seek God's kingdom and His righteousness. And all those are the 4 points. With them, Jesus helps us break the cycle of worry over our finances, and He paves for us the path toward peace. First, don't obsess. Second, look and see. Third, trust. And then fourth, seek God's kingdom. By putting these into practice every day, we'll really see the benefits of God's ways work in our lives. God's peace will be in our lives like it never has before. On that note, though, I want to end with some urgency from C.S. Lewis. He wrote this: "Relying on God has to begin all over again every day, as if nothing had yet been done." So practicing this path every day is a way better cycle than jumping on the hamster wheel of worry. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Aaron Massey. I've been following Jesus and teaching the Bible for more than 15 years. There's a lot of confusing and false teaching out there on the gospel. So on this channel, I'm creating gospel clarity so that you can know the Bible's main point, understand Jesus' message, and build a confident faith. If you want to go deeper on anxiety, check out this video where I talk about how to fight it. I think it'll help.